All right, welcome into the first official episode of the Three Fantasy Boys podcast. We are your hosts, Mikey Mize, Ryan Sams, and Steve Duncan. So today's episode, we're just talking about rookie quarterbacks. No real outline for today. We're just gonna have a conversational tone about each of these guys, what they bring to the table, who we're most excited about from a fantasy standpoint. Yeah, and so with that, let's get into it. But before we start, I have to ask Steve, how was Kong versus Godzilla?
So funny story. I went to go watch that last night, and I didn't realize HBO Max was the only platform you can watch it on.
So you didn't watch it?
We didn't watch it. We watched some other movie on Netflix, which I don't know. It's kind of weird. I forgot
What was
the
it?
name of it. What Lies Beneath, or What Lies? Yeah, something like that. It was really weird, but
Not as cool.
it wasn't as cool. Yeah, I searched everywhere for Kong or Godzilla versus Kong, but I think HBO Max is the only place that you can watch it on.
Yep.
Not unless I'm missing something. And yeah, didn't watch it. So I was prepared to pay $30 just to rent it.
Yeah, I thought that's how it was right now, isn't it? You kind of have to rent it, and that's like box office sales,
Yeah,
like for $30.
yeah. I think it is like that, which is crazy. $30 just to rent, $20 to rent. But
Right.
some places, like I think if you sign up for HBO Max, however much that is a month, you could watch it under that price, the monthly price.
Right.
And I searched Amazon Video, couldn't find it anywhere. So appreciate you asking. So
I'll tell you what, fellas, I miss paying $50 at the movies for some popcorn and a slushie.
Just the experience.
I know.
Yep.
I know.
Mo and I saw the Kong versus Godzilla movie. I appreciated the fact that it was more monkeys and reptiles fighting and less people talking than the last one.
Yep,
But then
that's
by
what we
the end
want.
of it, I kind of had a headache from all of the metal clashing on metal, and then there's a lot of neon lights, and I wanted to go to sleep. But still a good movie.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
funny.
I was actually coming to you next, Ryan, because I know that you have seen it, just just by knowing you.
Great, lots
So I
of monkey
wanted-
fighting, teeth gnashing,
Yeah,
slimy reptiles. I'm into it.
Yeah, it's like football.
Yep, exactly.
So with that, we'll transition right into our quarterbacks. Let's talk about the biggest reptile. I'm just kidding. I don't know why he's a reptile. I just made that up. But Trevor Lawrence.
He is the Godzilla.
Yeah, or is he Kong? Because he's got that long, beautiful locks. That flow.
Yeah. Kong is the better movie monster, I believe. So I guess we can call him Kong.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess he could go either way. He's got that kind of lizardy, feel to him a little bit.
Is
He's tall.
Godzilla?
He
Yeah,
does, though,
6'6".
doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think Godzilla's taller than Kong, or I can't even remember how
Yeah.
to explain it, because in like the first movies, Kong is like, if you like the first Kong, he's like climbing up the Empire State Building, and then by this, he's like taller than the CN Tower. So I'm not really sure how that works. I don't know if he's on monkey steroids, but
Right. Yeah, that's standard for Kong movies, right? He
Yeah.
just changes sizes every time.
Yep. I'm cool
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, back to our lizard guy, Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, he is. I mean, he's 6'6", 220. He's got that lizard feel, but he's an absolute stud.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, when we're talking about fantasy, I think he's the easiest to break down because we kind of know where he's going. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody in the world would be shocked if anybody but Trevor Lawrence went to the Jacksonville Jaguars at 1 overall. So.
Yeah.
We kind of know his coaching situation. He's got Urban Meyer going down there, and he's got some weapons now. Marvin Jones is now teaming up with him down there, so he's got some receivers. So I think he's got a good core to start, and then obviously we know.
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna
sorry.
say. Oh, sorry.
No, I was saying running back. Who's the running back from Jacksonville rookie
James
last year?
Robinson.
James Robinson, right?
Yep.
He had a breakout, so he's got some offensive weapons around him. So what do you guys think about Trevor Lawrence?
Well, I was gonna say I think he has one of the best situations. That is, if he goes to Jacksonville, from the system he ran at Clemson, translate well under Urban Meyer, and I think he's going to get put in a good situation under Meyer. So that's exciting to see.
Yeah, because I mean that was one of the big criticisms of there was a couple of Trevor Lawrence is that they ran a very collegey system.
Yep.
Not a NFL type system, but going into Urban Meyer, he can maybe design the offense around Lawrence. And the other was he wasn't as fast as processing defenses as like a generational talent like him should be. Like he's probably the most touted QB prospect since probably Andrew Luck, I would say. But like besides those small little things, I mean, he's what you want in a franchise QB, like you were saying. Big, he's got a big arm, physical, and he's not afraid to run, and he's fast too. So like he could be a very viable fantasy option coming up this year. Like DJ Chark, Chenault, you got Robinson, and like you said, Marvin Jones Jr. I mean, he's set up pretty well to maybe make an impact.
Yeah,
and I like what Steve was saying about Urban Meyer, and I think Urban Meyer saw that as well, and that was kind of I think that was probably a big reason why he wanted to go to Jacksonville. And it's funny that we talk about that because like you would think normally the team with the 101 overall probably like the hardest situation to walk into, whereas this year it's like no one really wants to walk into New York and play for the Jets. Yeah. And they're at 2 overall, which I know they kind of blew their chance of having Trevor Lawrence of sorts, by winning a game, but whatever. But yeah, I would agree with you guys. I think Trevor Lawrence is the most when you look at him, and he's been touted since he was in high school, so he's handled big pressure. And I like listening to Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah on their podcast, and they talk about it a lot and how much it means to have that pressure on you as a young guy, as a high school quarterback, as a college quarterback. You play in these big games, everybody expects you to play big, and then you do play big.
Yeah.
And it's like I was telling Steve the other day, some of his down games in college, he was throwing for 400 yards against Ohio State. You know what I mean? It's just like the guy, he looks the part and he typically plays the part. And now we're going to see what that looks like at the next level. And I think you're right. I think he will have a fantasy impact right away. And he'll be on a lot of guys' rosters and even possibly QB1, so.
Yeah, especially fantasy purposes and dynasty purposes. Lawrence is definitely a pickup.
100%
He's also
agree.
very mature. Like he seems pretty level-headed, and you definitely want that in your franchise quarterback. I like his decision not to attend the draft. He's like, I'm not really about the glitz and glamour and the spotlight. He seems like a guy that just wants to ball, and that's what you want.
Natural leader. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's a similarity that I've seen between him and Justin Fields, and we'll get to Justin Fields in a second. Real quick, for Trevor Lawrence's 2020 season, he had 3,153 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. And that was after they changed the offense a little bit too. So that's not, you know what I mean? That's just, I think that also speaks to how he can adapt to his scheme. Like you said, Urban Meyer's going to set something up for him that's, friendly to a young quarterback like himself. But I also think he has the ability to kind of walk into anywhere and potentially be successful, so.
He can work out any of the kinks that he has, be it the issues with processing, like especially with like safeties and things like that. That's things that, I mean, he's going to grow and he'll learn accordingly. Like he's in a really good spot, and I don't see Jacksonville taking anybody other than Lawrence in that number one. Like maybe a 10% chance they go Wilson over him, but I wouldn't see why. Lawrence is more the safe bet. And if you do fail with your first round pick, you take Lawrence, and it's like, well, he was the guy I was supposed to take. There's some people that say maybe Wilson over him, but that's kind of a gamble. I do like Wilson as well, though, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of good quarterback rookies coming in this year,
It's
and
a great
obviously
class.
that's why we're
Yeah,
doing
it is.
a whole show on it, right?
Absolutely.
So another just like we said, Trevor Lawrence 6'6", 220 pounds, another just like physically imposing NFL looking quarterback coming in. Justin Fields that I mentioned 6'3", 228. And the first thing that pops out to me when I watch this guy's film is just like how strong of a runner he is.
Oh
And
yeah.
at a high level too. Like Trey Lance is a strong runner too. I like watching Trey Lance run. But I do think there's something to be said about the guys that are trying to tackle him, at North Dakota State University versus Ohio State University. And there's also going to be a difference between both of those and the NFL. Those guys that are, strong, like hard-nosed physical runners. It's a little different at the NFL level, and we've seen that time and time again, But
Yeah.
but I think there is something to be said about Justin Fields, what he did and what he looks like as a runner and as a passing quarterback. But I think Justin Fields is definitely, when you think about an NFL quarterback and what they look like, he's kind of it. And he's also got those same leadership qualities that we talked about with Trevor Lawrence. Very respected in the locker room, and he's had the spotlight on him. He was on the QB1 show on Netflix in high school.
Yeah.
Went to Georgia. He's another guy that's had the spotlight on him since he was a child, essentially. And he's handled it as well as anyone could expect. Anything pop out to you guys about Justin Fields?
So
Quick 2020 stats real quick. I'll give you 2,100 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions.
So with both, I kind of put, this is just my opinion, I kind of put Trey Lance and Justin Fields into the same box of potential boom or bust. Because like with Justin Fields, I think one of the big criticisms is he's a first read quarterback. And in that Clemson game, he made multiple like second, third read throws. But it seems like more often than not, he is kind of like that first read quarterback. But I think I've said it before, that's something that can be coached. He can, I think if you put like a Justin Fields or Trey Lance behind someone like a Big Ben, or like maybe they go to the Falcons, sit a year, learn the system, get more comfortable, they can like iron out those issues. And if you could do that, they're both just like great arms. They can run. And that's, I mean, for fantasy purposes, that's what you want most of the time. More often than not, you want that running quarterback. That's just more
Right.
points.
Yep.
Like Trey Lance, Justin Fields, they both have great arms. Well, I guess we'll talk more about Trey Lance later, but with Justin
Okay.
Fields, it's just that, he has to get through his progressions better. Essentially is what is one of his biggest problems. But besides that, he's like that, kind of like that archetype of Trevor Lawrence, where he looks like that big franchise QB that you want. More like, he reminds me kind of like Cam Newton. And I think that Justin Fields will be bowling through like, defensive players more than like I would say like Trey Lance would. But Justin Fields, he's like, if he goes to the right team, like if he goes to San Francisco, I would draft him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is his potential really depends on both of those guys, Trey Lance and Justin Fields, depends on if they're starting and where they go.
Yep.
Right. So Justin Fields, like you said, if he goes number 3 to San Francisco, I think there's no question he's going to be fantasy relevant and he's going to put up a lot of points. Shanahan's offense is just friendly to quarterbacks in pretty much any way. And that guy's got a lot of talent and he can make a lot of things happen. So I think he's going to have a huge impact if he goes there. But we've heard Mac Jones linked to San Francisco. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but Mac Jones apparently is Shanahan's first option. I don't know if that's just a smokescreen and then he's going to take Fields, or I don't know why he would do that. He's got the number 3 pick. If you're going to take Fields, just say you're going to take Fields. It's not like, but yeah. So we'll see about that. What do you got, Steve? Sorry if I cut you off.
Yeah, no, it's all good. You read the 2020 stat line. I don't have his yards for 2019, but all I wrote down was he threw for 41 touchdowns, and he only had 3 interceptions in 2019, which I found really impressive. I also wrote down that he's very accurate and he's consistent with being accurate. But I think more importantly, Justin Fields is a leader on and off the field. You know, if you guys recall, he was one of the first guys, the top guys to bring Big Ten football back, you know, and have a season to play this past year. Like Fields was one of the leaders that put that on. So
absolutely, yeah, and we're Michigan fans here, so it means a lot for us to be hyping up a OSU guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dude is that good, and I think he definitely. And I don't really buy into that. You know, always coming from Ohio State, like Dwayne Haskins. Like, okay, a lot of guys have played quarterback and came from schools with other bad quarterback. Like that doesn't matter to me. That's a totally different guy, and he plays different. And I don't know. I just see a lot of differences in those two guys. And
Fields
maturity
seems like
wise.
a leader.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what was going to be my number one thing. Is I'm glad Steve brought that up. Is look what Dwayne Haskins up to now and what Justin Fields is up to. You know what I mean? I just see two different guys.
Which is a shame. I loved Haskins. I actually loved Haskins coming out of college.
Yeah. Yeah, he might get another opportunity, but that it's a here nor there. That's another conversation.
Exactly.
I know. Yeah, he's with the Steelers, right? He's on their practice squad.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, but we've seen how fast quarterbacks can go down.
Yep.
I don't see him making it there.
So another big thing, you brought up the interception, Steve. One thing that jumped out to me about Trey Lance is because I would agree when I look at like their running prowess, Justin Fields and Trey Lance kind of look the same to me. Like they look like pass first, but hard nosed, like can get it done on the ground. Fair, that they just look like they run the same. Anyway, Trey Lance had 0 interceptions 2019. He only played one game in 2020, so it's 0 interceptions. He threw his first college interception in the first game of 2020, his only game of 2020. And watching that game, it just looked like he struggled a lot under pressure, which a lot of guys do. Obviously, that's a big thing. But like he just looked very uncomfortable, and it looked almost like he hadn't seen a defense that was schemed to stop him before. Whereas 2019, he kind of just ran over everybody. And kind of did what he wanted. And then the first game of 2020, they kind of know, like, all right, Trey Lance is the guy that we got to lock up, and then we'll worry about everybody else. And I think it was very evident in his play. And that's why I'm the most apprehensive about Trey Lance as far as fantasy. I think he has the highest bust potential, I guess I would say. But also, he's got a pretty high ceiling, like Ryan said, with running yards and all that. But I don't know. Out of all the 5 guys that we're going to talk about today, the main 5, get into other guys, but I think he's the one that I would be least happy about wanting to draft, and especially because I don't think he's going to start anywhere he goes. If he goes in 4 to the Falcons, he's playing behind Matt Ryan. If he goes 7 to the Lions, he's playing behind Goff. If he goes, to Carolina, he's playing by, just you can go down the list. Maybe he starts at Denver. Maybe, probably not though, but I don't know. Denver's sitting at 9 right now. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was going to say, I think Lance is definitely one of those guys you have to sit behind a quarterback for a year or two, much like Rodgers did with Brett Favre. He's going to have to sit behind a quarterback. He's going to have to learn his how to read defenses a little better and work through his progressions. But I think Lance is not going to start. Like you said, he's definitely going to sit behind a quarterback. So
he should.
Maybe you could draft him and set him on your bench, if you have the room. Definitely.
So let me ask, what do you guys think if Lance goes 3 to the 49ers? The old Shanahan switcheroo.
Well, I mean, I don't know what he's thinking. Well, I mean, hey, he's the QB guru. He's the offensive mind, so there's a reason he takes him. So you kind of have to trust what Shanahan's thinking. I mean, he's definitely going to probably have him sit behind Jimmy G if Jimmy G's still there, But that would be wild. That would be probably the most unexpected move of the draft for me, but maybe possible.
Yeah, I think it is possible. Just because, coach talk and all that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on anything in the top five right now, besides maybe one and two. And even two, I feel like I mean, Zach Wilson, we'll get into him next.
Stud.
I think he's pretty safe. And Steve, I'm glad that you and I had a little discussion about him yesterday. And at that point, I was still kind of like, I don't know. He looked good, but watching him again today, I gave him a
Stud.
watch
Yep.
early this morning, and I agree he is a stud. And I think he has that, dare I say, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers-esque feel.
Hmm.
He's a natural ball player. And when you look at what he does to defenders, he just reads defenses and people really well in the middle of the play, which I think is huge at the next level.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because you compared him to Rodgers and Mahomes. Because I compared him to a Josh Allen and Mahomes because he has that strong he has a strong arm. I watched him throw up a ball. It was in the air for 55 yards before it went down. He has the strong arm. He's a pass first guy, but he
Yeah.
can run, just like an Allen and Mahomes. They're pass first guys, more so Mahomes, but pass first guys finding their option. If there's nothing, they're taking off. And that's what I like about Wilson.
He's the most
Yeah,
mechanically gifted, I think, of all of these prospects. Just in terms of like his footwork, like his release. It kind of looks like he just thrives in the pocket, and like it just looks like he's meant to play quarterback to me. And
Yeah.
like he could be, I don't know, I could see the Jaguars putting up a smoke screen for Lawrence and just being like, yeah, it's, I guess one of the only knocks against Wilson is he's not as big,
yeah,
but he makes up for it in his footwork and his mechanics. Like he'll just sidearm it. He doesn't have to throw over guys, He could be a viable
yeah.
first round pick.
Yeah.
So Ryan,
Like,
I kind of thought that he was kind of smaller too, Zach Wilson. And after looking at it, so Justin Fields, 6'3", 228. Zach Wilson is 6'3", 210. I'm like, yeah, he's 18 pounds like lighter, but
Yep.
maybe that's a benefit to him because he
could
looks
be.
like he moves. It looks like he moves better than, at least in the pocket, like laterally. It looks like he moves a little bit quicker than Justin Fields on tape. And I will say, um, a lot of people have knocked Zach Wilson for like his quality of. This is another guy who's his quality of schedule.
Yeah.
Who he was playing, but I was thinking like I keep making the Pat Mahomes connection. Pat Mahomes, he had the big game
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma against Texas Tech when him and Baker Mayfield went, tit for tat back in the day. But no one said anything when Texas Tech lost 66-10 against Iowa State,
Yep.
and so like I don't know, there's just like I don't buy as much into. There is something to be said about the competition, but you also have to look at what these guys have done on the field and what they look like while playing the game of football in big games, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um,
And I feel like
so
I hear the same thing, Mike, about the competition. And you're exactly right. When Mahomes was at Texas Tech, who did they play? It was about the same.
Yeah.
That what are
Like,
they? The Big 12, I believe. Who
yeah,
did they play?
I mean, they
It's
still
kind of the
played
same.
some. Yeah, they played Oklahoma and stuff, but like it's different because we're talking about um, different aspects of the game. So when I'm talking about Trey Lance and his competition, I'm talking about him running through tackles and running people over and outrunning guys like literal speed and physical attributes. And I'm talking about Zach Wilson's competition and what he did to them. I'm just talking about the skill ability, where he's putting the ball,
Yeah.
yes. Yep.
little nuances, pump fakes, things like that, like just things that he's doing to defenders mentally, not physically. You know what I mean? And I think that translates through all
Yeah.
levels of the game. You know what I mean? So
And he
Exactly.
yeah. I was gonna say, and he's got the sidearm throws. Like he's not just the one come up over the top kind of thrower. He
yeah,
can throw it from different angles. And I
Whatever position his body's at, he can make the throw most of the time.
yeah.
Yep.
And I know last time we were talking about how Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson had that kind of similar throw during Zach Wilson's pro day where he's rolling to his left and he throws across his body to his right, dime. And I was kind of like, well, I'd like to see him do it in a game. Well, I saw him do it in a game like 3 times this morning when I was watching film. So like, I don't know. He kind of answered my questions this morning when I was watching him. So yeah, I'm on board.
Well,
I'm on the Zach Wilson train.
He was going to be my bold prediction, but then I didn't want to go with a quarterback, a rookie quarterback as a bold prediction. But I personally think he's going to be the best quarterback this year out of these rookies.
Yeah, and
that's just my opinion.
Listen to his 2020 stats: 3,692 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Like the dude just was competition, but he was lighting everybody up.
Like, and with that competition thing, it's BS because I don't care who you're playing against. A good throw, like threading the needle, like throwing into like a very enclosed small space and like hitting it more often than not, that's a good throw. It looks the same. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you can play, devil's advocate and say, well, the competition's not as good. But when you're on a bigger level, say Clemson and Trevor Lawrence has a better supporting cast around him. His receivers are better. Mac Jones has 2 top 10 receivers around him. I don't know of a BYU receiver that is going in the top 10 or the first round in general. So I feel like it's the supporting cast. It's you could argue that all day.
Okay, so let's get back to the fantasy aspect of Zach Wilson. Let's say he goes number 2 to the Jets. What do you guys think his ceiling is with the Jets?
He probably won't.
New coaching staff, all that.
He probably won't be fantasy relevant this year, just because it is the Jets and they're kind of rebuilding. I mean, weapon wise, Robbie Anderson's gone, and then I guess they have Jamison Crowder. Receivers, I don't know who else could be relevant.
Rashad Perriman just signed with the Lions. He just signed with the Lions, so he's gone.
Yeah. He's potential.
That is. Yep.
Good dynasty pick, but like redraft, you're gonna have to wait a couple of years probably. Or he might blow up. I don't know, but just the cast around are not there to support right now.
Yeah, I would say that he probably has a Tua-esque season, like Tua had last year.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably get the job done in a few games, and maybe people will be like talking about him, like, is he the guy? But I think he is the guy. They just have to build around him, really, so in my opinion. Now, like you said, if the Jaguars throw up a smoke screen and he goes there, I think he has the same potential, maybe even, dare I say, more than Trevor Lawrence from a fantasy standpoint. I mean, I like Trevor Lawrence a lot, but I don't know. Those two guys, they look similar to me in how they play the game. I don't know. I like both those guys. I think whoever goes to Jacksonville is probably going to have a fantasy relevant season. But Zach Wilson, I think Zach Wilson going 2 to the Jets, I would agree. I would taper my expectations. I'd probably still draft him, especially in dynasty format, like you said. But I don't know. I'd have to see. Show me the money first. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. No, definitely in a dynasty format. I would all day draft Wilson. In a dynasty, put him on your bench. The rookies are not expected to play, but I would draft him all day.
Yeah.
Okay, so out of Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trevor Lawrence, who are you? Okay, not Trevor Lawrence, but Justin Fields, Zach Wilson. Who are you taking, Steve?
Wilson.
Even if
out of those two, are you just saying in general, or who's going to have a better season this year?
Just in general, in dynasty, Fields goes to San Francisco and Wilson goes to the Jets. Who are you taking?
That's a good one. Gosh, if Fields went to the Niners, I mean that'd be nice.
Tough, right?
Yeah, that's really tough because the Jets is probably the one place where I just don't want to see a quarterback go. you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
So
what do you think, Ryan?
I would still probably go Zach Wilson. I know that he's going to the Jets, but I just believe in his ability to produce to where like as good as Justin Fields could probably be on San Francisco, let's say that like if there's a chance of a quarterback not working out between the two anywhere, I would say it's Justin Fields. Just based on his processing ability of like defenses, his reads, as physically gifted as he is, I don't know. My gut just says Wilson, even if he goes to the Jets, because I mean, maybe not this year. He's going to do great, but Sala is going to probably, try to instill a better culture there, get the stink of Adam Gase off, and and try to make something good. I just love the way he throws.
Yeah.
Yep, I'd agree. I think I would go Wilson too. It'd be tough for me because I do think Fields has that just extremely high ceiling, especially in San Francisco. But I think longevity wise and just playing the safe bet, I think I go Wilson probably. Yeah.
Plus, I think San Francisco is picking Mac Jones.
Yeah, so let's talk Mac Jones. What do you guys think about his fantasy relevance if he goes to San Francisco? Kind of the same. Do you think? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, very valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've. Oh, go on.
We've heard Shanahan kind of wants a quarterback so he can play quarterback from the sideline, and I think Mac Jones is that guy that he wants just because he makes great reads, he makes throws on time. He's played with the highest level, and when you talk about competition, this is something I was thinking about. Mac Jones, yes, he played at Alabama. He had all-star receivers that are probably, that are top 10 in the NFL draft. But you think about who he's throwing against also, not just on game day, but in practice every day. He's throwing against guys that are NFL talent every single day at practice. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of that iron sharpens iron theory, and I think Mac Jones is probably the dark horse, but he really shouldn't be.
No.
And I think he has the potential, especially if he goes to the 49ers, to be immediately fantasy relevant.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he has a high floor, especially if he goes to the Niners, working under Shanahan, because I feel sometimes watching tape on him, I feel sometimes he gets tunnel vision and can't see like an open receiver. But I definitely think, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, you got those guys you're passing to. I think any quarterback getting put in that position is going to succeed.
Mac Jones has the best deep ball accuracy, I think, of any of these quarterbacks in this draft. I think it even rivals Joe Burrow's college season. And I think about San Francisco in the Super Bowl. Jimmy G missing Emmanuel Sanders wide open with like 2 minutes left in the fourth. Like he was wide open and he just misses this deep ball. And I think that might be sticking in the back of San Francisco's mind. Like they just want a quarterback that can make those throws. Like Mac Jones, he doesn't have the strongest arm of this class, but he can still throw the ball deep. And when he does, you can usually count on it being in the right spot. Like regardless of who he's throwing to. Like I don't like that criticism either of like, well, he's got Waddle, he's got this Devonta Smith. Mm-hmm. Yes, they're great receivers, but I mean, who does Aaron Rodgers throw to? Okay, he's throwing to Devontae Adams. Does that take anything away from Aaron Rodgers and his ability? Does that take anything away from Devontae Adams? No, they're just two elite players playing together. And I think you could say that about Mac Jones playing with Devonta and Jalen Waddle. They're just, those three together are great.
Yeah, that could be true. I don't know. I feel like when you have two of the best receivers on your team in college, that's going to put you above. That's going to make an average quarterback, really look really good. True. You can toss to him. Now, you're right. Jones is accurate, very accurate on deep balls. But I don't know. I feel under Nick Saban, having those two receivers, being on Alabama, I feel Jones is in a good spot. And you're absolutely right. He could come out and just ball. He could come out and then I'm wrong. Like, yep, Jones was legit in college,
Yep.
So
Yeah. The thing about his fantasy ceiling, I would agree that he's probably safe. He's probably has a high floor. I don't think his ceiling is really, um, I don't know. I would probably put Mac Jones' ceiling in fantasy to be the lowest out of the top five guys.
Yeah.
Only because he's not going to give you that running aspect.
Yes.
He's really not going to give you any rushing yards.
Yep.
In fact, he might just take sacks. So
Yeah, he might just take them. Yeah, and like my
yeah,
analysis is more of just like as a quarterback, just for NFL purposes. Yeah, like
yeah,
for fantasy purposes, I totally agree, Mike. Like his ceiling's not going to be that high.
yeah, yeah. He's 6'3", 214 pounds. He's got the same pretty much profile as a lot of these guys, besides the top two, or Justin Fields and um, Trevor Lawrence. But his 2020 stats: 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Yeah, so he obviously won at Alabama, which is what they expect. But there's still something to be said about winning,
Oh yeah.
as you can see. But yeah, so he's got the potential to succeed. I'm just not excited exactly about his fantasy um, relevance, I guess.
yeah. So who do you think was better at Alabama, Tua or Jones?
Hmm.
I'd say Mac
I,
Jones.
I would say Jones as well. Obviously Tua had the injury stuff. I don't think Tua was bad. I wouldn't really
Yeah.
say that, but like, I don't know. I just think Mac Jones got it done more efficiently. And like I said, I think he does have, he does have what it takes to make it in the NFL. Out of the five guys, I'm
Yeah.
probably looking at drafting him last out of those five, as far as, even redraft or dynasty. Um, for me, it probably goes, so for dynasty, it probably goes Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and then Trey Lance, or no, then Mac Jones, and then Trey Lance. So I guess I misspoke. Trey Lance is actually who I'm least excited about. I think and that could change also potentially on where Trey Lance goes. If Trey Lance gets shoved into a starting role, I just don't see it working out. I think
Yep.
he's a guy that needs to sit behind one of these guys that we're talking about. He needs to sit behind Goff or Matt Ryan, or one of these vets that have been there and learn the NFL game, and also just get more comfortable. He played one game in 2020. He just needs more time under center and
Yeah.
doing all these things at a high level. So I'll taper my expectations, obviously, but out of this year starting, I think Trey Lance is who I'm most concerned about. So Mac Jones is probably number 4
Yeah.
for me.
I would agree
What do
with
you
that.
guys?
For me, if
What do you
Mac Jones goes to San Francisco, so let's say that San Francisco picks Mac Jones, in terms of like fantasy relevance, I would probably go Trevor Lawrence, just because he's going to go to Jacksonville, then Zach Wilson, then Mac. Well, no. Trevor Lawrence, and if Mac Jones goes to San Francisco, I'm going to put Mac Jones behind Trevor Lawrence. Then Zach Wilson, just because he's going to New York, he's going to the Jets, Fields, and then Lance. But like, I think a good idea would be, once the draft happens, we see where these quarterbacks land, reevaluate like this analysis to see what changes.
Yeah, and I think we're probably in the minority. A lot of people are high on Trey Lance's fantasy, his ceiling, essentially, because he has that running aspect of his game. And I mean, look at Dak. Dak. I don't even know what college Dak went to. Do you guys?
Was it Mississippi State?
Nah,
I could
Was
just
it
be
Mississippi?
pulling that. I think I could just be pulling that out of my butt. Let me look.
Yeah, like Dak. I don't know what college he went to. I know it was in Alabama or OSU. Maybe I'm a casual for that, but like, the point is,
Yeah, he went to Mississippi State.
oh, nice. That was a nice shotgun that you had there. So, yeah. So that's a bigger school, but the point that I'm trying to make is I'm not saying Trey Lance can't be fantasy relevant, and I don't believe in his ceiling because I do think he has a high ceiling. I'm just more concerned about the bust potential. Just from what I watched on, game film, that really scared me, watching especially the first game of the 2020 season, the only game he played, it seems like the defense just adjusted for him, and that was that. And they, you know what I mean? They kind of figured him out a little bit. He still had a few really nice runs, and he hit a touchdown pass, but it was wide open. I feel like anytime. Another quality that I forgot to bring up between Justin Fields and Trey Lance is I think they obviously excel in an extremely clean pocket, but it's like when the pocket gets dirtied up a little bit, when they get a guy on their shoulder pad or on their ankle as they're trying to throw, it looks bad to me. Like I don't know,
Okay.
and that's big at the next level. I think like you look at quarterbacks like Ben Roethlisberger and guys that can just stand there and throw a strike, with a guy right in their face, and it's like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I want to see. And
That's
I
a
know
Zach
these guys are,
Wilson.
yeah, and that's exactly what I saw from Zach Wilson, and I didn't really see it from Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I saw more of like, but they are young guys, and that's something that gets developed in getting comfortable, stepping up, climbing the pocket with a, guy coming blazing through the A gap or something like that. It's just like
Yeah.
stuff that you have to get used to, I'm sure. But that's Trey Lance specifically looked really rattled when the defense adjusted to him. So I'm just more concerned, I guess, about his bust potential.
You could kind of draw a comparison to like Lamar Jackson's first year as a starter. Sets the single season rushing record for a QB. Defenses didn't really know what to do with him. And then second year, not to say that his fantasy season was horrible by any means. It got better near the end, but that second season of him being a starter, they kind of figured him out a little bit. And like he definitely struggled, especially in his passing game. Like I could definitely see like I guess you call it a parallel between the two.
Yeah. Well, and history shows that the 1 year, because Lance had a great, was it 2019 season, I believe?
Yeah, 2019. Yep.
Yeah, he played one game.
Oh yeah.
But the 1 year quarterbacks don't go too well,
Yeah.
Like guys like Mitch Trubisky had a great, year in college, got drafted and didn't do too well. Blake Bortles. So there's just, history shows there's guys that can do it all in college, have a great year, shoot up the draft boards, come to the NFL and just not produce. And hopefully not the case. I think all the quarterbacks this year are phenomenal. I think it's a great year for quarterbacks. All skilled position players in general. It's a great year,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it's really deep. So
yeah, I think that the focal point of that is the starting role, like we were talking about before. I think,
yep.
I don't know, some of these guys you got to give them a year. You have to give them a year and let them adapt to the game, or at least see if they're going to adapt. Yeah, Trey Lance's 2019 season, 2,789 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, and that's what I was talking about. It's like, wow. So he was safe with the ball, got it done, and then that first game in 2020, he fumbled. I mean, he got strip sacked, but whatever, he fumbled. Threw a pick, like he just kind of looked a little shaken when the defense was ready for him. Yeah. But hard runner. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of talent at the skill position. I'm curious to see top. I'll go over the top drafts real quick. Draft picks, excuse me. First, obviously Jacksonville. We think it's Trevor Lawrence. 2, New York Jets. We think it's Zach Wilson. 3rd, 49ers. We think it's Mac Jones, but it could be Justin Fields.
It could be.
Or Trey Lance. It literally could be any 3 of those, and I don't think anybody would be too surprised. Maybe Trey Lance, but 5, Cincinnati Bengals. They're not taking a quarterback. Dolphins. They're not taking a quarterback at 6. Lions at 7. They might take a quarterback. I've heard Justin Fields actually connected to the Lions in a couple mock drafts, like we talked about the other day. So we'll see if they go with one of those guys. I think that's a spot where is a good position for one of these guys to sit behind Jared Goff. This guy's been to a Super Bowl. at the very least, they can watch and adapt to the game behind Jared Goff, and maybe if something happens, they have to step up. But I think that's a good spot for any of these guys. Panthers, they're not taking a quarterback at 8. Broncos, they need a quarterback at 9. So that's another one. I think if one of these guys goes to the Broncos, there's potential. Like if Trey Lance goes to the Broncos, maybe he's fantasy relevant. He's got Jerry Jeudy there, and I mean, yeah, Jerry Jeudy. I know he's got
Cortland
the other
Sutton,
Portland
Sutton.
Yep.
healthier.
Yeah, so he's got some receivers there in Denver, but I don't know, just a young guy starting. Maybe it's just another. Who's their quarterback now? It's
Drew Lock.
Yeah,
Drew Lock, right? Yep.
Laser pistol guy.
Yeah.
Seen that meme? Shooting lasers.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not anymore, dude.
I saw him vibing out to Young Jeezy one time. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Seems like a good party guy. Go with
Yeah,
Drew
he
Lock,
does. Yeah, I could drink some beers with Drew
Yeah.
Lock, that's for sure.
I think if San Francisco takes Justin Fields, which is possible, I think a good landing spot for Mac Jones would maybe be Denver. If Mac Jones falls that hard,
Yeah.
that could be a good spot for him to work out with both
Yeah, I can see
Jerry
that.
Jeudy and Sutton. But then again, like with these quarterbacks, I mean, probability wise, one of them's going to work out in the end, maybe two of them. You know what I mean? Because that's just
Right.
usually how it goes with QBs. Like first round pick wise, there was like a stat where I think it's only Peyton Manning and Troy Aikman were first round picks who were drafted by their team that went to a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So like that's just the way QBs work. Not everybody works out. A lot of times they get traded, you know? So you're just kind of like hedging your bet, like probability wise, who has the best chances of working out, and I definitely think it's like Trevor Lawrence, most likely, Zach Wilson. You just have to kind of like get that right dart throw.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I would agree. I think Zach Wilson has that it quality that I think that you just don't see in a lot of guys. But we'll see if that translates to the NFL. And I know kind of taper. I don't think it's going to be immediately if it does. But yeah. So back to that first, or what we were just talking about. Out of these top 5 guys, who are you most likely to slug beers with? I think it's Mac Jones. It's got to be Mac Jones, right?
Mac Jones, definitely.
Dude, I think Wilson though, Zach Wilson. I think Ryan. Look at Wilson and Ryan. That headband, man, that bandana around the head. Wilson seems like he's but I did see Wilson. I did read somewhere that he kind of came from money, and so you have to believe that he's been to some crazy parties.
It's funny that you say that, because I was gonna say Wilson looks like the guy that opens the door at the frat party that you are invited to, but you're not actually part of the frat, and you're like trying to explain who you know to him. And he's like, no. It's like, no, dude, you're not coming in.
Yeah, I'm looking through the list. You're probably right. It'd probably be Mac Jones.
Yep.
Yeah, Mac Jones looks like he opens the door with no shirt on, keg in one hand. Come on in, brother.
My name is McCorkle. That's what Mac stands for.
Yeah, McCorkle.
I would party with a guy named McCorkle.
Yeah, me too. All day. He's probably got a McCorkle limited tattoo somewhere on his chest or something.
It's right by his navel.
Yeah.
Like Thug Life. Yeah.
Boom. It's like, I'm not messing with that guy.
No, for sure. Yeah. All right, boys. Well, we covered a lot of stuff today. I'm really excited about the prospects of these guys and what they're going to be, and obviously what teams they go to. I think we're about 3 weeks out from the draft right now. So sooner than later we will know, and then we can really assess their potential fantasy relevance this year. So we'll wrap it up with that. Thanks for joining us on our first official episode of the 3 Fantasy Boys podcast. Check us out pretty much everywhere you can find podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, any of that. We also have a YouTube channel if you like watching the video of us and our beautiful mugs. You can check that out. And we're also on Facebook, IG, and Twitter. Pretty much just posting fantasy relevant updates to the season, through the season. And our show will be every Monday, starting this Monday, April 12th. Today's episode, by the way. Didn't say that at the beginning, but yeah, Monday, April 12th, and every Mondays thereafter. So check us out, come hang with us, and yeah, that's all I got. Have a good one, folks.
Go. Love that riff.
I know. I like that part.